Hey guys, what is up? Kitty here, Burn One, Shadowverse Evolved channel as always. Coming back to you from a very long break, just due to the fact that I got incredibly sick right around New Year's, and it took me a few weeks to get better. And then as soon as I got better, I had to travel to Vancouver, and that's what this video is about. It's about my trip to Vancouver and generally what happened in the top 4 decks for Vancouver, along with like little stories, I guess. But yeah, so I ended up being able to travel from Vancouver. I was very worried I was going to have to actually miss it, just due to the fact that I was really sick before just like leading up to the event, which was like pretty scary for me, or not scary, I should say, but just like it would be really unfortunate if I missed this event after like spending time there and stuff. But luckily I was able to get better and actually make the trip and everything. So yeah, I ended up taking Swordcraft there with me, Natra Sword. I do think it's like the best deck in the format. Locally, I've been doing incredibly well with Natra Sword. I've won most of the events here locally, but just having to go into a longer, instead of like a 3-round event, we're going in there as a 7-round event, and having to hit the mirror match more often, it felt pretty miserable. Most of my losses, I felt like, were to opponents slightly high rolling, especially my mono matchup, and there was a pixie matchup I think I played round 4 that was pretty rough. Like once they developed their board, I don't think there was much I could do from that point forward, for sure, because that kind of just ended the game. They played extremely well. They actually did make top 8. Shout out to let me read the Nubajeez. I hope I said that name right. Nubajeez or whatever. I do not know how to say your handle name, but they said they follow and watch the channel, so thanks for that. It's always great meeting the people that do come up and say hi and everything. But that matchup was so rough. Once they got to like turn 5 Anastasia turn, I was like, oh, I can't deal with this board. Like I can clear 3 things, but I still kind of just eat it after that. It was really rough. It was pretty surprising too, because I feel like a lot of the Pixie matches I played prior to this were, I wouldn't say they were free, but they were definitely challenging, but I didn't feel like I was ever overwhelmed that bad from the matchup. But I only played that matchup a little bit with Natra Sword, and kind of, I guess, never really tested it again. Maybe I should have tested a little bit more. Maybe I could have seen some stuff better there. It was pretty rough. The other matchup I got kind of blown out by Mono. Mono, I think on round 6, I think it was. It was just kind of one of those high roll monos where I thought I opened well, but then I bricked on the next 2 to 3 draws, which kind of ended the game for me. It kind of let them develop into the turn 5/6 mono Evo, push a ton of damage, and then I just lose to that swing, even though I had a ward up, which was pretty rough. But outside of that, I think the event was a lot of fun, and I did pretty decently well with the Natra Sword list. It definitely feels like this meta, now that I got to play in like a longer event into I guess a lot less variety of decks. It was I think I played 3 monos, Sword, IMS, and the Fairy Pixie deck. The mono matchups are like pretty free, as long as you know what you're looking for and mulligan into the correct things. The last mono match that I played, where they kind of high rolled me and killed me on turn 5/6, was pretty rough, just because of just drawing very, very poorly after I think I opened pretty well, or like mulligan into a decent hand at least, that had I think enough interaction in the first few turns to kind of slow them down. But then they were just able to stick some things, and it unfortunately excuse me, didn't work out for me. But yeah, with that being said, congratulations to everyone in top 4. So let's go ahead and move on and talk about the top 4 deck list here that I have here. So we have a tournament breakdown here. No surprise here, Sword is still one of the huge contenders. I think at this point, most people either think this is the best deck, or obviously Mono or some version of Abyss. I think most people were generally on Mono. I think I only played against Mono that day, and all I really saw like maybe 1 or 2 Control Abyss running around. But I think they all kind of lost fairly early on. I'm not if you were there and you played Control Abyss, let me know how you went. But when I remember just walking around the top tables, and just after round 3 or so, I didn't really see them anymore in the top 4 to 5 tables, I feel like. But I could be completely wrong, because some of my matches did go kind of long. But yeah, Abyss being the number 1 deck is not surprising, because like I said, Swordcraft and Abyss are the 2 decks you have to really care about. There was a bump here in Forestcraft, which is nice. I do know Bella was there, who got second place at Worlds for the first Worlds. I know she was on Fable Forest, but got some pretty unlucky hands. Fable Forest is a very fun deck. I've played a lot into it against Precious, so I know how powerful it can be and how scary. Just looking at a Beauty and the Beast sitting there with like 6+ counters in the egg zone can be how scary that can be. But yeah, I think generally though the percentage distribution here is about what we expected. A little high on Idolmaster, but Idolmaster is still like a pretty solid deck if you still play cool aggro, honestly. So first place, I think no real surprise here. Mono. I think Mono is just kind of like that solitaire Yu-Gi-Oh-ish type deck where you just get to kind of like do your thing, and if your opponent stumbles, you probably get a pop off with Mono, and then you just have to chip them down just a little bit. Has really good answers into Baleon and stuff, being the Whispers from IMAS, being able to be played in the deck. And a lot of people have, it seems like they've moved it up from 2 to 3. Unfortunately, one of my opponents did mill 2 Whispers off of their Nikolai or whatever, which was really unfortunate for them. They got really unlucky that game against me. But yeah, this is generally what the deck list is looking like. I mean, there's nothing really different here. It looks like they cut 1 Sanguine Core for the extra Whispers, and that's kind of about it. This is like deck list is as expected as it should be. I don't think we'll see very much variance beyond this, because I think basically like I said, about like 36 to 38 cards are like guaranteed in the deck for the most part, and you only really have like 2 to 4 slots to really mess around with. So congratulations. Second place, Dragon, one of the decks that didn't have a high representation, but it's still a really powerful deck. One thing I'm surprised on, once again, is 1 Ogiri Cap. I hope the reason they chose not to play 3 Ogiri Cap was because they didn't have 3 SPs, because it looks like they were maxing this deck. They do have 2 Blazing Breaths. I'm not sure how I feel about Blazing Breath into this meta, honestly. It's just mostly like the cards that are going to storm into you have like 6 HP or more, like Latika or even Mistalina. Maisha is the only card that this kind of answers very cleanly for like 1 play point. But so I'm not always very impressed with it, but it's still like pretty good, I guess, into like the mono matchup as extra removal here and there. But the main component, usually I feel like Ogiri Cap is the way you kind of close out games. So like only having 1 and then possibly losing it due to like Valdane Mill is always scary to me. But this deck list too, I think, is fairly figured out for the most part. The only difference here, I think, in this list that I posted on the channel is that they do play 2 Blazing Breaths. It's interesting because in a weird way, I do think I think if I was gonna like slot in 2 cards to like kind of counteract matchups I think might be rough, I probably would have included what's the card? Not a Conflag. There we go. Just for like the board wipe against like Abyss, Mono Abyss playing well and understanding the matchup well enough that they can force like wide boards that are kind of hard for you to deal with. But also the fact that they do play Rights in this list does give you options to ping off things off the board. So maybe Rights plus the combination of Blazing Breath is just enough removal interaction you need, honestly. Yeah, so congratulations there. Third place here, Sword, no surprise here. The one thing here I think is interesting is that I think this list is basically kind of like what a lot of people are on, or like similar list, honestly. Some people like Swift Tigress. I personally don't really care for the card. I play Cyclone myself. I really like that card into a lot of matchups, especially any matchups that go in really late into 9 or more play points. This is kind of like can blow the people out who just overcommit. But the one thing here, they do 1 Armor of the Stars. Not a big fan of Armor of the Stars. Not 100% sure what they're using it for. Is it to protect Octress or even something else here, or even like Lupine Axeman, which is really insane into like the mono matchup. Like seeing Lupine Axeman plus Armor of the Stars could be pretty annoying for them to deal with, I guess. Or even maybe Baleon. I'm not like super duper like high on the card. I understand like itself can be a very powerful card, but a lot of times I feel like this is like a dead draw, mostly for Armor of the Stars. But I mean, it worked for them obviously because I did not get 3rd place, but they did. But outside of that, the deck looks pretty standard for the most part. They obviously went for the Leods instead of the Maisha package, which is which is probably how they had this extra slot here for this as well. They also look like they cut Mage Leader down to 2 instead of 3. I also went down to 2 to play 3 Octress because I figured the mirror match is what I'd see a lot more often. So I went with 3 Octress in my list. Didn't really matter though. But But yeah, the list is basically solved for the most part. There's just like minor tweaks you can do in Sword, which I think is like the only difference between the Sword list generally is anywhere from like 4 to 6 cards, I would say, depending on how you want to tech the deck out, essentially. Yeah, Evo deck looks pretty standard. We got 1 Leod, 1 Maid Leader, 2 Octress, 3 and 3. Yeah, like I said, deck's pretty solved. 4th place here, we got another Mono Abyss, but this one is a little bit different. They went with the Cerberus package. Cerberus is probably better in the mirror, maybe, just because of the extra interaction. It gives you an extra push of damage you can get from it. Outside of that, though, I'm not exactly sure if I even like the Cerberus package. It's kind of cute, especially because it does feel like you're able to fill up the graveyard so that you can get the Necro Charge 10 off more often. They did go for 2 Cerberus Evos, which is kind of surprising. But outside of that, it's another one of those cards where it's like, I feel like Gensetsu just feels better in this slot in general, just because it's just like inevitability. It has extra stall potential. It makes a wide board, so if your opponent wipes your board or you're able to get in with mono beforehand and then go into Gensetsu, it's kind of like you can lock the game out, especially after the second Gensetsu Evo. But Cerberus obviously worked for this person. I'd be interested to know if anyone else has been messing around with Cerberus at all and how well it is into certain matchups. It's an interesting tech choice. Personally, I don't know if I'm a fan, or I could be convinced into it being a really good card. But at the end of the day, I think the standard list is just the strongest version of mono to be playing right now. It just seems so consistent and so powerful on what it's doing. But yeah, that is top 4 from the event. Shout out to everyone I said hi to, and my friends that were there. I think this is the first time I've been to Vancouver in like 20 years almost, basically. I haven't gone there since I was like in my early teens, basically. So it was cool checking out the town, walking around downtown. I was gonna go Sunday to the event, but I ended up deciding to just walk around downtown and check out the sites there before I had to go to catch my flight. The night before, I hung out with a lot of friends, went to go get some steaks and stuff and some drinks. It was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun in Vancouver. I think I will try to make Vancouver for trios next year, because the city was really cool. I really liked it. The flight and everything was not that expensive. Splitting a hotel with people and going with 3 people, it probably sounds like a lot of fun to go in Vancouver. So if they do teams next year, or this year I should be saying, then you can probably catch me there with my group. Playing Shadowverse. But yeah, with that being said, guys, sorry it's been a while for videos. I'm working on a bunch right now. I have a video I'm kind of working on. I gotta kind of fix the script a little bit and make slides for it, but I'm doing a getting into Shadowverse in 2025 video. I hope to have that out sometime next week, hopefully, if I'm not too lazy over the weekend to finish everything and get the recording done. And then I think I'm going to start doing breakdowns for like the meta decks, like more in depth of like how you should be playing the deck, what are weaknesses of the deck and stuff like that. At least I'm thinking about it. I haven't wrote anything out yet, but I think that is going to be good information moving forward. And hopefully I'm going to talk to a couple people and do a couple collaborations coming up here for a little bit more fun content for like card ratings and stuff like that. And maybe some salt tier list and things like that. So hopefully I get that done and going in the works, and hopefully we'll see you guys in the next video. So if you enjoyed this content, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. The other top 4 deck lists will be in its own separate video for the ones I haven't already done just yet. This one's going to drop first though, just because I want to get everything that's on my mind out there as soon as possible. So yeah, see you guys in the next video. Later.